We are the leading communication and engagement platform in senior living. We recently rebranded to the Icon brand last year, formerly CareMerge and Voice brand. Today, I'll be running through, firstly, what are the different types of resident engagement technologies that are out there, and why this type of technology is important. Next, I'll run through some factors to consider when evaluating engagement technology and vendors specifically. Next, I'll kind of give some tips on how to run an effective vendor selection process, followed by some implementation best practices and tips. And finally, we'll talk a little bit about the benefits of consolidating your tech stack with a single vendor or a few vendors, and then walk through a case study really quickly on Ohio Living and their journey in resident engagement technology and the great success they were able to achieve there. So first, just a level set, engagement technology, it's a pretty broad category. It's really any tools or digital platforms that are used to encourage and facilitate resident involvement, participation, and communication. The ultimate goal being to improve the quality of life and wellness of the residents and their families. It can really include anything from in-room TV, digital signage, wellness applications, wearables, smart devices, social applications, communication platforms. It's really a big array of different things, but ultimately they all come back to one thing, and that's offering your senior a great experience. Why is this technology important? Well, as I said, improving the experience, and that could be in a lot of different ways. I mean, one story I heard recently was of a resident who moved into a community after her spouse passed away, and they used to watch NASCAR races together. That was a big important thing that they used to do. And so when she moved in and was kind of grieving the loss of her husband, she was looking to engage with other people with a similar interest. But didn't know how to find these people in the community, and so used one of the staff members set her up on the Icon application. She was actually able put in her interest and then find other people in the community with a similar interest, and formed actually a group around it in the community, and had something like 20 people, some crazy number. Who would have thought that many people were interested in NASCAR, but ended up having this great group that would watch the races together. So it's the kind of stuff that technology can kind of help facilitate. So that's a big benefit of the technology. Another one is just there is a growing expectation around having this type of technology in place. 80% of baby boomers are using smart technology. So as they age into the senior living space, there's going to be more and more of an expectation that you have some tools and technology in place. Another great benefit is it can help ease the burden on your team. You can take paper-based processes, put them in a digital format, and help streamline some of the day-to-day. Another big piece is alleviating those communication silos. She made a post about this on LinkedIn today, that the number one complaint around customer satisfaction that seniors have in moving into a new community is communication. That's the number one area they want to see fixed. And so addressing those silos can be a lot easier with technology. Other benefits, optimizing, personalizing programming. The tools can help you track which residents are going to what programs, and you can use that insight to inform the development of your future programming. Another great thing with these tools is to gather that data on resident satisfaction and put it in a usable format for analysis. So paper-based surveys are great, but it's really hard to analyze that data. You have to key it in manually. With this tech, you can prompt the staff or the residents or the families real time to gather that data and get feedback that you can act on. And then finally, can help engage those outside the community. We did a talk on using technology to launch a non-resident day program that can be found, I think, on our website, I believe. So that talks a lot more in detail about that use case, but technology is essential for engaging those that aren't on site, or people who are remote. So with that, what is the process? You want to start your journey with engagement technology. How do you actually go about picking technology and then finding the vendor that's right for you? So the first thing we always suggest is you got to conduct a very thorough assessment involving all stakeholders in your community, residents, staff, family members, to really inform what your needs are for when you go into that selection, so you can be informed. So things you should do: one, conduct surveys and even one-on-one interviews. Engage with the residents and staff, gather their feedback. What would they like to see? This can really provide great insights into their preferences and expectations. The worst thing is to roll out a platform and get everyone excited, but it not meet expectations. They're expecting something different. So getting that information up front is super helpful. You want to identify what are their specific pain points or challenges that they're facing. Is social isolation a challenge for seniors, and they want to engage more with other people, but they're having trouble doing that? Or is limited mobility potentially contributing? Or are there certain communication barriers? Maybe you have a diverse international population speaking different languages. It's hard for them to engage. Whatever they are, they're going to be unique to your community. Not everyone has the same challenges and pain points, and so you need to really do that needs assessment, figure out what those are for you. Next, review your existing programming activity and try to identify if there's any gaps or areas that could benefit from technology, whether that's to kind of streamline and make processes more efficient, or to enhance the experience with connectivity in those activities. Again, your staff will also have great insight, and so you want to make sure to connect with them as well. And then evaluate, obviously, your budget and ability to implement something. We'll talk about a bit about implementation, but we generally suggest start small and scale up over time. And then you want to make sure that you have a platform that can actually do that, though, that can be scaled. And then again, continually refine. So based on this, you're going to get a lot of insights, a lot of pain points, a lot of expectations that seniors have, and then you're going to write your checklist. These are where you call it your checklist or requirements documentation. This is the absolute must, the things that you want, the non-negotiables that you need in any platform you suggest. We always say, write that out, be very explicit about it. That way, when it comes to vendor selection, you're not going to get kind of pushed off of why you got into the search in the first place. Sometimes vendors might have some slick platform, and you might see this shiny thing and then lose sight of why you're doing this. A big part of, after writing your checklist, establish goals. Again, you identify those pain points. So what are you actually hoping to achieve by implementing technology? Is it certain resident satisfaction score? Is it improving attendance activities? Whatever it is, set those goals out, write your benchmark of where you are today and what you want to be. And then when you go to your vendors and you're trying to select somebody, say, hey, this is what our goals are. Can you help me achieve that? That is probably the best way to filter out the vendors who are potentially not a good fit for you. And to that point, the final step here is you want to select the partner, not a vendor. You want somebody who can grow with your business, who will take your feedback and actually make improvements to the product to make it more suitable to your own needs. And then can also provide that insight and expert guidance on how to best implement and utilize the technology. So that's a big thing that we always encourage in the selection process. And so on that, and a few other points around how do you actually pick that partner? You have your checklist, you have your goals. How do you pick that partner? Some considerations, and this is having spoken to a lot of communities and understanding what they went in, what was on their checklist when they went in. I won't go through all these, but I'll highlight a couple things to ask any vendor when you're going through an evaluation process. One is expertise. You always want to work with a vendor partner that has worked in senior living. There are some generic solutions. The issue is they probably just don't get the industry, and there are very unique challenges that I think our industry has. You want the solution that's tailored. The resident getting that adoption can be challenging, and so you want tools that are optimized for that kind of adoption. Another big consideration is just around comprehensiveness of the solution. What we found is a lot of communities will implement one tool and then realize they need something else additional to that, with another, oh, we need another thing, and then you end up with this huge amalgamation of technologies that don't talk to each other. So it kind of makes things less efficient, which is not the purpose of technology in the first place. Makes things less efficient. It's hard to manage, and ends up being very expensive. So having a lot of these small platforms and then trying to plug them together, the cost of ownership really adds up quickly. And so typically you want a solution that is able to meet your needs today and where they might be in the future, or what might come up. And so look for a platform that's comprehensive. Sorry, I was on mute there. You want to find a partner that can provide a holistic approach to senior living engagement technology and offer an integrated and seamless experience. Another big consideration is customization and flexibility. Again, every community is unique and has unique needs. You have unique programming, for example, or unique dimensions of wellness that you're focused on. So you want to look for a vendor that can kind of customize their solution, a solution that's flexible, to kind of adapt it to be your own. So you want to avoid the vendor who has that kind of one size fits all solution, because that might not align with your community. And when you get in there, you might realize that, oh, that the way the terminology they use, for example, doesn't actually align with what we use internally. Another big consideration is just that ease of use and accessibility. You want the technology to be accessible and user friendly for your residents to drive that adoption, and you want it to be really friendly to anyone, regardless of technological literacy or physical ability. So really focus on the ease of use and interface, and even get some residents involved in that process of selection. You want to make sure it supports various devices. Some seniors might come with iOS devices, but other ones might have an Android device. And so you want to make sure the platform can satisfy all the residents coming into your community. Another big one that I think goes very overlooked, but shouldn't, is the platform security. I've actually seen a few articles recently on senior living communities being the subject of cybersecurity attacks. And one of the biggest ways that these attackers get access to your data is through unsecure vendor partners. So you want to really make sure to be careful when selecting a vendor. So things to look for are certain certifications and compliance. The gold standard is SOC 2. If you want to make sure your vendor has that, that's usually a good stamp of approval in terms of their security disposition. Another key consideration to ask is around integration capabilities. If you have other technology currently, whether it's a EHR or maybe it's a property management system, you obviously want your tools to talk to each other and be able to share data. And so make sure to ask and figure out what those integration capabilities look like, and whether your current platforms, maybe even future platforms that you might want to look into, how they can plug in together. Another big one is customer service. I think more so than other industries, strong support is crucial for successful adoption. So you want to look for a vendor that's responsive and experienced, has done a lot of these implementations, and can guide you through on best practices and approaches, to really achieve that high level of adoption. And there's a few other on here things that we've heard commonly that communities have on their checklist of items that they want, but I think we covered kind of the major ones. So with that though, now you have your checklist. What are best practices? You select the vendor. What are best practices for implementing software? First thing is set timeline and goals at the onset. That's what are you trying to achieve? Is it a certain engagement goal, satisfaction goal, whatever it is? Set that so you have a benchmark that you can kind of look back on to measure whether the program's been successful. Second, we always recommend establishing a resident tech committee. This is a small group of seniors within your community that can kind of be champions for any tech project that you take on. It can be a great sounding board during the technology selection. And then you also have that buy-in from the onset from a small group, and that group can act as champions in your community to actually help drive adoption among the other seniors. They also can be a great benefit in offering kind of like one-on-one tech support. Oftentimes seniors like to converse and get help from other seniors. And so it can be great having a few champions in your community to actually provide training or support on a peer-to-peer level. We also suggest, if you're going to do trainings, make sure the groups are not too big. You want a smaller group. That's the best way to keep the seniors engaged. And you want the training to be hands-on. You want them to be poking around in the application. You don't want to just be doing slides. We suggest you take a kind of judgment-free onboarding approach. At least our tool, you can't break it. The senior can do whatever they want, and it's going to keep running just fine. So we can actually encourage that to click around, explore. Don't worry about if any issues happening, because we find a lot of times that the seniors who are hesitant to adopt anything, it's because they're a little afraid that they're going to damage something, cause an issue. And so just kind of get that stigma out of the way out of the onset. Another big one is doing the legwork for your residents. So, a lot of these applications might have a profile for the senior on them. And so, if a senior logs in and they go to look in the directory and all the profiles are empty for all the other seniors, they're going to not think there's much value in the application. They're going to log out and not log back in again. And typically, you only get one or two shots at that. Once an individual thinks the platform's not valuable to them, they kind of check out. So do the legwork. Build the profiles for the seniors. Have it so when they log in that first time, they're going to have a great experience. That the applications look active, and they understand what the value is and why you guys implemented this in the first place. Again, though, you got to keep offering continuous training and support. It's not one and done, and people move in and out. And so, oftentimes we see people achieve great adoption after the first month of implementation, and then that gradually declines over the next couple of years. So having a program or system of regularly offered maybe office hours that people can come in and ask questions. And then finally, start small, scale up over time. You don't need to start with every single engagement solution out of the gate. Start with a couple, get good adoption there, add more over time, and kind of don't take a one-size-fits-all approach. Even for if you operate multiple communities, the populations might be different between both, and so the tech stack that makes sense might need to be different between both. So try to find a vendor who can help tailor the solution offering to each community that you work with. So with that, before I jump into the case study on Ohio Living, let's just share some benefits of finding the vendor who has kind of an integrated platform. So the benefits of consolidating your tech stack, I talked about the challenges of having a bunch of small different tools that don't talk to each other, and touched on a few of these already. But the big ones, obviously, efficiency. If you consolidate on a single platform or a couple major platforms for different business areas, you can streamline operations, reduce duplicate data entry, and save time. Uh, as I said, the cost of ownership is going to be a lot lower by consolidating on a platform or two. If you add up integration costs and individual platform subscription fees, those end up adding up pretty quickly. And so it makes a lot more sense to typically choose one vendor for this area. Again, the experience also might be better for the resident by being integrated on one platform. They can only have to go to one space to access every engagement piece of technology that you have in your offering. Makes adoption a lot more simple, and can actually improve satisfaction and reduce frustration. Again, the scalability is going to be a lot better. It's really hard over time to scale if you have complex integrated small point solutions. So selecting a vendor partner that can consolidate your tech stack can kind of help you adapt and grow over time. Data management, we already talked about. The ability to just have your data in one place, not having to enter it in multiple spots, that could cause errors, cause conflict in information, which just causes a headache for your staff. It takes up time, valuable time that could be using to spend with your residents. And then finally, consolidating on one vendor can really help streamline your workflows, reduce complexity, and result in just smooth operations overall. So quickly, let's just talk about if you were to consolidate your tech stack, how would you go about that? So what we suggest, assess, write down all the different technologies you're using today. Evaluate whether any of these are redundant in any way, and whether you're seeing an ROI. So identify those common features, and the integration costs that you're incurring. Review the total cost of all that combined, as well as whether you're paying for additional support services, or whether having how much technology, how much time it's taking up of your staff or IT personnel to manage that tech stack or provide support. And then understand your flow of information, what your current data management practices are, how much data is being passed between these different platforms. Do these vendors have SOC 2 compliance for that security posture again? And then once you have this holistically, you can kind of look and try to compare that to single vendor platforms like an Icon and see whether they're able to meet all your needs, but in one roof at much lower cost. So that's some of the benefits and approach to how you actually go about consolidating your tech stack. So just finally, Ohio Living, we did a pilot a while back with their Westminster Thurber location. It's a large location, like it's nearly 600 units. It's a life plan community, and they had a really unique journey in selecting technology. They actually tried, I think, something like 10 vendors over a 6-year period. Just didn't see success. They did suffer from some of those problems that I talked about, of having a lot of point solutions that don't really work together, and then also over time identifying more needs and having to increase complexity of their tech stack over time. And so as a result, they just weren't able to get the type of adoption they wanted among residents. They weren't seeing that ROI, and it was actually causing or creating more work for their staff. So they came to us. We implemented a couple of our offerings for them, and were able to achieve pretty phenomenal adoption. close to 90% adoption rate among the population. And that's really a testament to the implementation experience and approach. You really want to make sure the vendor that you partner with can show you that kind of implementation plan and timeline and what they plan to do. Ultimately, they were able to achieve their goals, increase resident engagement, and post-implementation conducted a survey, and 100% of residents said they wanted to keep the solution and were satisfied. So great success, and I think that's really testament to their commitment to the implementation process, their ability to invest time in that implementation, and also at the onset, setting out that checklist of things they actually wanted in a solution, and then selecting the vendor that met those, was able to help them achieve those goals. So with that, I know I ran through this, was a lot of content to run through. I want to just open up the floor to questions. So I think that's all we have. Yeah, that is all we have. Again, Icon, we're engagement and communication platform for senior living. Our goal is to drive that experience, that satisfaction among the population. So with that, Taylor, do you mind opening up the floor to any questions?
Sure. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and write it in the Q&A or the chat section, and then we'll answer from there.
All right. I don't think any questions today. Awesome. Well, I appreciate the attendance today. This will be posted online if you want to rewatch. Otherwise, hope you all have a great week.